Hello there, welcome to the news on Nepal television. I am Rojina Rai, starting with the headlines. Candidacy coalition to file UMS Devraj Ghimire for the position. 22 bodies of those killed in Yeti Airlines crash in Pokhara handed over to families. Aircraft's data recorder sent to France to determine cause of accident. IMF chief warns a leading global pension fragment the economy can cost trillions in lost growth, urges to wake up and preserve global trade. And top seed Iga Swiatek steps up to reach Australian Open third round. Greek Sakari and American third seed Jessica Pegula also makes their progress. Of Representatives is starting today. The candidates for the Speaker of the House of Representatives are asked to register their nominations from 1 to 4 p.m. today, according to the election schedule published by the Parliament Secretariat. The list of the candidates will be published on today at 4:15 p.m. The meeting of House of Representatives has been called tomorrow to hold election of the Speaker, where a Prosper will propose and the supporter will back the nomination. Parliamentarians can sign their votes in separate lobbies with three options of against and neutral. After the Speaker election, the House of Representatives sets the date for the election of the Deputy Speaker. According to the constitutional agreement, the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker must be elected within 15 days from the date of the first meeting of the Parliament and Deputy Speaker by January 23rd. Meanwhile, CPN UML's Devraj Ghimire will be putting forth his candidacy for the post of the House of Representatives Speaker on behalf of the ruling coalition. Ghimire is the House of Representative member elected from Chapa too. Meanwhile, Nepali Congress's office bearers meeting is underway to decide on party's position in regard to the election of the Speaker of the House of Representatives. The meeting at party President Sher Bahadur Dewa's residence in Dhumbara is primarily discussing on whether the party shall file candidate for the post of the House of Representatives Speaker. An all-party meeting called by Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal on Tuesday could not come to consensus on election of Speaker. Thus, Nepali Congress is likely to coalition has already done a power-sharing deal on Speaker and Deputy Speaker of the lower house of Federal Parliament. As per the agreement, the coalition will file a CPN UML's candidate for Speaker, while a candidate of Rashtriya Swatantra Party will run for the position of the Deputy Speaker. Election to the Deputy Speaker of Karnali Province will be held today. The Karnali Provincial Assembly meeting has been called for 1 p.m. today to choose the Deputy Speaker for the Provincial Assembly. Nepali Congress candidate and Maoist Centre's candidate on behalf of the ruling coalition have been named to contest the election. Nepali Congress's Indra Kumari Sahi and Maoist Centre's Yasoda Neopane are vying for the Deputy Chair of the Karnali Provincial Assembly. Both of them are elected as members. The Provincial Assembly comprised of 14 members from Nepali Congress, 13 of Maoist Centre, 10 from CPN UML, 1 each from CPN Unified Socialist Rashtriya Prajatantra Party, and 2 independent ones. We have more updates at the side. Time for a short break. Do stay with us. Welcome back. You are watching Nepal Television News, and now the remaining updates. The authorities have begun returning to families the bodies of plane crash victims and are sending the aircraft's data recorder to France for analysis as they try to determine what caused the country's deadliest air accident in 30 years. Bodies of 22 persons among those deceased in the crash of Yeti Airlines in Pokhara were handed over to the families and relatives. Assistant Chief District Officer of Kaski, Anil Kumar Sahi, informed that all the bodies completed with post-mortem crash site Kathmandu for post-mortem examination. Earlier, 48 bodies retrieved from the crash site, but of the Sethi River girls were airlifted to the Tribhuvan University Teaching Hospital in Maharajganj, Kathmandu for examination. Post-mortem of the bodies of foreign nationals, crew members and those unaccounted for would be performed in Kathmandu. Apparently, it would take some more days for the relatives to receive the bodies, as DNA test has to be undertaken to identify some deceased. District Police Office Kaski Chief SP Ajay Casey informed that search for a person who went missing in the air crash is still underway. Now we have updates from international front. Economy could cost trillions in lost growth. IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva urged assembled business and political leaders in Davos to wake up and preserve global trade, even as they look to insulate their sources of supply from disruption. She said the pandemic and the war in Ukraine showed that some redundancy in where businesses source their parts and raw materials was needed. Reorganizing supply chains in a way that does not restrict trade would reduce global growth by only 0.2% of global output, but if trade collapses, that could balloon to 7% of global economy over time, or $7 trillion, the size of the economies of Japan and Germany together. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Now the remaining international headliners. Nearly 250,000 migrants crossed the treacherous Darien Gap between Colombia and Panama in 2022 on their way north, a figure that was nearly double the number from a year earlier, the International Organization for Migration said Tuesday. At least 36 migrants died during the journey, but the United Nations migration are never recovered. In 2021, at least 133,000 migrants, mostly Haitian, crossed the Darien, according to Panama's data. Last year, Venezuelans dominated the flow with more than 150,000 crossings. Panamanian authorities say they still don't have data for crossings during the first 2 weeks of January. Several people occupied a giant digger at the coal mine of Indian, while hundreds of other protesters joined a protest march near Gujarat. The village itself was evacuated by the police in recent days and is sealed off. Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg, who traveled to Western Germany to participate in weekend demonstrations in Gujarat. Several activists ran over to the Garjolia open pit mine. Thunberg was one of the several protesters carried out away by police from the mine's edge in the afternoon. To more updates, before that, let's have a quick look into the highlights of the site. Brazilian authorities released a police body cam footage from inside the Congress building as realtors breached the security perimeter and clashed with police in Brasilia. Images released by the Brazilian National Congress and the federal legislators, they clashed with police on 8 January. The Office of Brazil's Prosecutor General has presented its first charges against some of the thousands of people who authorities say stormed government buildings in an effort to overturn former President Jair Bolsonaro's loss in the October election. The prosecutor in the recently formed group to combat anti-democratic acts also have requested that the 39 defendants who ransacked Congress be imprisoned as a preventive measure and that $7.7 million of their assets be frozen to help cover damages. The defendants have been charged with armed criminal association, violent attempts to subvert the democratic state of law, staging a coup, and damage to public property. Their identities have not World #1 Iga Swiatek and third second Jessica Pegula remain on course for a semi-final meeting after the pair both powered into the last 32 of the Australian Open on Wednesday. Swiatek stepped up her game to restore order with a more routine winner, advanced with a resounding 6-2, 6-3 victory over Colombian Camila Osorio, while Pegula outclassed Elia Cassandra Sanovic 6-2, 7-6, 7-5 to extend her run of straight sets victorious this summer to 6 matches. Meanwhile, Maria Sakkari moved into the third round at Australia on Wednesday at Melbourne Park. The number 6 seed Greek took 2.5 hours to prevail 3-6, 7-5, 6-3 over the Russian college student. We're almost at the end of this news bulletin, but before we say goodbye, quick reminders of the headlines. Candidacy registration for Speaker of House of Representatives from 1 to 4 p.m. today. Ruling coalition to file the UMS Devraj given a further position. 22 bodies of those killed in Yeti Airlines crash in Pokhara handed over to families. IMF chief warns letting global tension fragment the economy can cost trillion in lost growth, urges to wake up and preserve global trade. And top seed Iga Swiatek steps up to reach Australian Open third round. Greek Sakkari and American third seed Jessica Pegula also make their progress. Well, this is all we have for this moment. Until our next bulletin, goodbye and namaste.